some sobering numbers coming out of the Education Department in KwaZulu-Natal then in the aftermath of those floods in the province. 630 schools have been affected. 101 of them were at some point inaccessible in order for assessments to be conducted on just how much damage they've sustained. 124 we know now have been extensively damaged. 57 pupils are among the 443 people who are known to have been killed in those floods last week. Let's take stock of what's ahead for schools in the province. We can speak now to Zanele Modise, Head of National Organising at Equal Education. Zanele, good afternoon to you. Welcome to Daytime Update. Your assessment first of the way forward. What needs to happen now in the aftermath of this disaster in KZN where schooling is concerned?
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, as Equal Education and through our advocacy, we have found out that what learners were describing to us as nearby schools was actually 45 minutes to an hour away. So this brought about concerns about transport to get to and from school. And I know that the contingency plan now is to move learners from, the schools that they were in that are damaged to nearby schools. And, that's, the concern that we have, that learners would be describing a nearby school as a school that is actually 45 minutes to an hour away from them. And it would be interesting to hear what the department's contingency plan is on this. Because even last year through our NSNP advocacy, the issue of transport actually came up where, learners had to figure out how to get to school because the nearby school where they were expected to collect food from was actually very far away from them. And through our advocacy again in KZN, we have seen and we have been noting that the department needs to ask for more money in order to ensure that all learners that qualify for learner transport are actually accommodated.
Of course, with some of the schools where pupils whose infrastructure has been severely or completely damaged, is that if it's too far and there isn't a proper transport plan in place, many of them will not show up for lessons, which compromises their ability to perform and learn throughout the rest of the year, no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Zanele, just a quick one.
That has been, one thing that we have been saying throughout.
Please finish your point. Apologies.
Okay, so I was just saying that as Equal Education through, the various advocacy that we've been having around social media, we have been noting that if learners aren't in school and the issues that they've raised with us about not having learning materials, not having connectivity to actually be able to access online learning, it actually puts them, at the far end because they aren't able to, catch up with their peers. So this is actually a concern because this is the second time now that KZN is experiencing such an issue where learners are actually not going to school. And, since COVID-19, we have seen just how, it disadvantages learners in rural schools and also in township schools. And
exactly that. So township schools are largely affected. And these are children who anyway would be on the back foot as far as their ability and availability of resources for them to learn. And if we're expecting another update by Friday, do you think it's realistic that the bulk of them will be resettled already by then? Not sure Zanele can hear me.
The national...
Apologies, yes, Zanele. Let me just explain for the benefit of people just listening to you when I speak now. There is a bit of a longish delay on our line, so we'll both just have to bear with each other so we can get through the conversation. But just on the point that you're about to make, then you can pick up from there.
Yeah, you're saying that the department, we are expecting the department to actually, address us again, and maybe it's quite unrealistic to expect that schools would be open for learners and teachers to actually go back full time. And what we know as Equal Education, and I'm sure as interested people here, is that the National Education Infrastructure Management System, which is a system that supports the department in actually monitoring progress on the ground. As of last year, it was still, reporting high numbers of schools with, still unreliable water supply and schools who are still using paid toilets. And we have seen just how schools last year and since the start of COVID-19 have been unable to facilitate the social distancing. And if learners now are going to be taken from their schools that have been damaged to the nearest school, what would that look like? I think it's unrealistic, but we did say as Equal Education that we support, learners being in school because we have seen the issues that learners are experiencing when they are at home. We have said we support them being at school if all the necessary, processes are put in place and learners are safe in those environments.
Let's talk about the other issue then, because a lot of these children will not be going back to class the same way they left. Many of them will be traumatized, having lost loved ones. Some of them will have lost classmates. We know now about 57 school pupils are among the dead in KwaZulu-Natal. So that too is going to require special attention.
Yeah. And, through our demands, we have been talking about psychosocial support. And, this one is going to come at play. And as rightly you're pointing out, that learners will be going back to school very much traumatized. And I'm hoping that the department is actually going to speak on that. And, they support learners because if learners aren't okay, their studies are unfortunately going to be affected. And they find themselves in very, disadvantaged environments where we've seen just how unequal, the education system is, or even the environment, the schooling environment is there, in rural schools and also township schools. So we are hoping that the department is actually going to address, the issue of psychosocial support.
Zanele Modise, Head of National Organising at Equal Education, thank you so much for your time today.